We have not crossed the Rubicon as yet. And Madam Speaker, the establishment of a fund that will be able to assist our people get adequate, appropriate, and accessible treatment will be welcome to our people at this time and age. When most of our constituents, most of our people are going to outside countries, specifically India. We are exporting a lot of capital to India towards treatment of cancer. And if we got the fund established within our systems, we should be able to tackle this menace. I wish to thank the Honorable Member for bringing up this particular motion. And I hope that as we deal with the bill that has been proposed in order number 12 on our today's order paper, we should be able to inculcate this fund in that particular bill so that we can be able to deal with this menace of cancer that has claimed many of our lives, made very many families destitute, and really caused a problem in our society. Madam Speaker, I support this motion wholeheartedly and thank the member for bringing it up. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Makali. We'll now call the mover to reply on this motion, Honorable Timothy. It is time limited, Honorable Pukose. We had 3 minutes and 10 minutes for the mover to reply.
Madam Speaker, do you say 10 minutes?
Yeah, you have 10 minutes, but you can choose to donate some if you
Madam
wish.
Speaker, I wish to donate 1.5 minutes to Honorable Donya and Honorable Phyllis Bartow. 1.5 minutes, 1.5 minutes.
Donya. Clerk, please note that the mover is very, very economical with the minutes. So.
Oh, thank you, Madam Speaker. Issues to do with health are very important to our people, and the types of cancers that are there worry us a lot. Doctors indicate to us that you should be having a routine check. You can imagine we have blood cancer. You have to go for blood cancer test. There is colon cancer, prostate cancer, then breast cancer. Of all these cancers, Madam Speaker, what is easy to detect is breast cancer, because women, we are advised to be testing ourselves on that cancer. But what of those people, Madam Speaker, who have no information of these cancers and how they should be handled? So as I support my brother, Honorable Robert, also we should have cancer awareness, what our people need to know of the cancers. Some believe that you are not supposed to eat a particular food, this type of food. And at the end of the day, they found out that they are still suffering from the disease while they've taken the instructions of not eating some particular foods. So let us support this motion, and then we also make sure that we've made enough resources for the awareness of this monster. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Donya, Honorable Bartow.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I would also wish to thank the mover of the motion, Honorable Wakili Toroitich, for bringing this motion, which is very timely, on establishment of the Cancer Center and fund to support this menace. Madam Speaker, we agree that cancer has become a problem in our society. It has impoverished families, and it has reached a stage when people are diagnosed with cancer, they just give up. They just give up and wait for fate. And it is very difficult, even for families who have patients. Madam Speaker, in my constituency, we receive calls every other day for support to talk to hospitals, to waive bills, or to even release bodies for burial because the families cannot afford. Madam Speaker, this bill is very timely. We need to have that fund so that there will be continuous sensitization and awareness to members of society on the do's and don'ts in as far as cancer is concerned, advice on diet, and also cater for the best practitioners who will be dealing with this problem of cancer. Madam Speaker, how I wish that we establish a center in every constituency and also avail resources so that there will be continuous testing and sensitization and awareness to the members of the society until that time when this problem is addressed fully. And my time is up. Thank you, Madam Speaker. And thank you, Wakil.
Honorable Toroitich.
Madam Speaker, Honorable Nimrod Bai has been on my neck. Madam Speaker, kindly allow me to donate 1 minute to him.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I will be very brief. I want to thank my friend Wakili Toroitich for the motion and also for the thought. Madam Speaker, cancer is a national disaster in our country, and because the only possible cure for cancer is early diagnosis. And the people in the villages, no facilities have the hospitals have no facilities for testing cancer. So the National Cancer Center, if established, should devolve the service, work with the county governments to get at least a room for the National Cancer Center in every constituency where people can be supported to go and have early diagnosis, because late diagnosis means death. Early diagnosis gives a possibility for one to be cured. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, honorable members. Madam Speaker, I wish to take this opportunity to sincerely thank the honorable members who substantively contributed towards this motion. Madam Speaker, the members who supported or who touched on this motion supported this motion both in substance. They supported the letter and the spirit of this motion. I sincerely, from the deepest part of my heart, thank the members for supporting this motion. Madam Speaker, this speaks to the issue of cancer in this country, because the overwhelming support, that is 100% support that this motion got in this House, means that indeed cancer is a menace, and as I said, cancer is an equivalent of a death sentence in this country. Madam Speaker, I gave the statistics, the harrowing statistics of cancer in this country. And Madam Speaker, I said that the current statistics point to that almost 100,000 people in this country are diagnosed annually with cancer. And out of that 100,000, the mortality rate, Madam Speaker, is 90,000. And I said, per month in this country, we are losing 7,500 people out of cancer. Per day, we are losing 250 people. Per hour, we are losing 10 people in this country out of cancer. So, Madam Speaker, cancer is a national disaster that we must be able to combat in this country. Madam Speaker, of special mention when contributing is Honorable Deputy Speaker Gladys Boss and Wamuchomba. And Madam Speaker, they talked about the pest, that is the Pest Products Control Board in this country, that the World Health Organization has banned 267 pesticides. But Madam Speaker, those pesticides are still operating in this country. They are being sold in this country. And the control board has not done anything to ban those pesticides. And Madam Speaker, of interest to mention is that there was a recent cancer screening in Uasin Gishu County. And it is reported that majority of those who are diagnosed with cancer are farmers, because they are the direct consumers of these of farm products, which is a consequence of these banned pesticide products. So, Madam Speaker, I also call upon the Committee on Agriculture to look closely and to be able to analyze the pest products control board, so that they can be able to ban the products that have been banned by European countries and the World Health Organization, because that is the biggest challenge. Madam Speaker, those products are still in our shelves, and this House must do something so that those products are expunged from our shelves. Madam Speaker, what is the way forward? Madam Speaker, as we speak, I have already drafted a legislative proposal so that we anchor this fund in the National Cancer Control and Prevention Act. Madam Speaker, we have a very substantive legislation on cancer in this country. But the problem is we do not have enough funds so that the National Cancer Institute can be funded. So, Madam Speaker, this House must be deliberate, must be intentional in creating this fund. Madam Speaker, I shall propose an amendment to the existing legislation so that we anchor that particular fund in an act of parliament so that that fund can be able to realize its objectives. Madam Speaker, these institutes must also be resourced so that they conduct research. Our National Cancer Institute was modeled alongside was modeled.
Your time is up, Honorable Toroitich. Under Standing Order 53, we'll defer the putting of the question on this motion. Before we go to the next motion, allow me to recognize again from the Speaker's Gallery, Janeiro Junior Academy from Rangwe constituency, Homa Bay County. Yes, welcome them. ACK St. Luke Academy from Thika Town, Kiambu County, seated at the Speaker's Gallery. We have Chebunyo Christian Academy from Chepalungu, Bomet County. And we also have a visiting delegation from St. Petersburg University in Russia who are seated in the Speaker's Gallery. Allow me on my own behalf and that of the House to welcome them to the National Assembly, and I'll indulge Honorable Omar Mwinyi to welcome the visiting delegation from Russia, but also the visiting students into the House.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for according me this opportunity. I would also like to welcome the visiting delegation from Russia. The head of this delegation is none other than Bolotiva Svilitana, who is the head of Special Projects Department at St. Petersburg University in Russia. She is accompanied by Sokina Kristina, who is a specialist in language testing at St. Petersburg University. And along with them is Vorontsova Irina, who is the Deputy Head of Admissions Office for International Applicants. So you are actually welcome in this Honorable National Chamber of the
Honorable
Assembly.
Mwinyi, speak to the chair.
Madam Chair, I wish to welcome them to this chamber and to this Republic of Kenya. Enjoy the warm, of course, weather that we are enjoying in this country, and the good people of Kenya are ready to welcome you wherever you'll be visiting. Otherwise, for the students, we are also welcoming you to this chamber, and we urge you to work hard so that one of these good days in future, you'll also find yourself in this house, either as a member of parliament, a senator, or a cabinet secretary. Thank you very much, and feel welcome.
Thank you, Honorable Omar Mwinyi. The next motion, before we go to the next motion, under order number 14, it's important to note that it will be affected by the procedural motion that we've already passed. It will have a maximum of 1.5 hours of debate. The mover will have a maximum of 10 minutes to move, 5 minutes to reply. The speakers, every other speaker, including the leader of majority and minority, will have a maximum of 5 minutes. So next order.
Order number 14, motion, development and implementation of a child care program for children whose parents are in lawful custody.
Honorable Brighton.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to move this motion. Development and implementation of child care program for children whose parents are in lawful custody. That aware that Article 53 of the Constitution provides for the right of children, including the right to free and compulsory basic education. Further aware that Section 22 of the Persons Deprived of Liberty Act and the Child Care Policy provides for the care of children whose parents is deprived of liberty until the child still require parental support, further recognizing that majority of these children often suffer from emotional distress, social stigma and economic hardships, cognizant of the fact that all children should be accorded a means of maintaining their relationship with their incarcerated parents, noting that children have restricted economic resources available for their support, which in turn negatively impacts their lives. This House therefore urges the government, through the State Department for Social Protection and Senior Citizens Affairs, to develop and implement a program for the children of, for the care of the children above the age of 4 years, whose parents are under lawful custody. Madam Speaker, we are alive to the fact that many a times families fight, and when they fight, it may lead to death of one of the family members. And when the death occurs, one will have to be jailed for the killing or something related to that. Now, my question is, when that happens, what happens to the children? Sometimes these children are very young and vulnerable, between 0 years to 18 years, Madam Speaker. In cases where both parents also are arrested and jailed, what happens? Article 53 of the Constitution of Kenya of 2010 indicates that every child has the immediate right to free and compulsory education. Apart from the rights to health and the other rights that are enshrined in our Constitution, we must be able to protect these children when such things happen. It is welcome that and plausible initiative that the government is intending to give stipends to the village managers. It is also intending to extend the registration of the Inua Jamii program of registering the vulnerable in the society, those young children who are very vulnerable, the orphans, the old, those who are old in the society of over 70 years. It is in line with this that we are seeking the support of government to be able to also look at the incarcerated children whose parents have been jailed, so that they can also be part and parcel of those who are being registered and supported under this program. With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I call upon Mheshimiwa Ngeleche to second.
Honorable Ngeleche.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I stand to support the motion on development and implementation of a child care program for the children whose parents are in lawful custody. Madam Speaker, at times when parents are taken into lawful custody, you find that some parents are single. They leave their children with no one. At times they leave their children with the relatives who are not even able to stand with them, or who have even accused them of various offenses, Madam Speaker. And you find these children may end up being mentally tortured, or they suffer the stigmatization and accusation by the members of public for the mistakes not done by them, by their parents. As much as they might be innocent and they might be young, many people might not take good care of them, because they look at them in their lenses of their parents. And they might be isolated, stigmatized, demonized, and we end up bringing very crooked people in the society, or even people who will also end up being criminals because they have been brought up by already being labeled as criminals, and yet they are not the criminals, it is their parents. So, Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, I beg to second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. I therefore propose that, aware that Article 53 of the Constitution provides for the rights of children, including the right to free and compulsory basic education, further aware that Section 22 of the Persons Deprived of Liberty Act and the Child Care Policy provides for the care of a child whose parent is deprived of liberty until the child still require parental support, further recognizing that Majority of these children often suffer from emotional distress, social stigma, and economic hardships, cognizant of the fact that all children should be accorded a means of maintaining their relationship with their incarcerated parents, noting that children have restricted economic resources available for their support, which in turn negatively impact their lives. This House therefore urges the government, through the State Department for Social Protection and Senior Citizen Affairs, to develop and implement a program for the care of children above the age of 4 years whose parents are under lawful custody. Again, members, those willing to speak to this motion, you can indicate. Honorable Abraham Kirwa.
Thank you again, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support this motion of national policy, the development and implementation of child care program for children whose parents are in lawful custody. Madam Speaker, it is very unfortunate for sure that most of the parents or some of the parents who are incarcerated or in custody have children at home. And when this happens, just because nothing had been put in place to make sure that those kids are catered for, the children end up suffering. No one to provide for them in terms of food, finances, clothing, and many things. As such, the relatives who are now responsible tend to either torture these children or tend to just neglect them, and then the children are left just like that. So some of the programs, Madam Speaker, that I think should be put in place as we talk about maybe looking for funding, we should look beyond funding, depending on the number of years the parents will be in custody. Because some of the offenses that the parents may have caused, they might be their life in prison. Some of them might be 20 years, 30 years. By the time they come back, their children will have grown up. Their children will have at least, maybe, so if there will be nobody to provide for their schooling, these children will suffer. Some of them will end up in the streets. Some of them will end up being thugs. And as such, the government should step in and provide a system, not only money, but also a system where these children should be able to visit their parents in custody so that they will continue to have a relationship between the parent and the child. And then two, also programs to feed these children, also programs to provide their school fees, although the government may not have all the funding, but has to be a system where these kids will be catered for. So this is a motion, Madam Speaker, that all of us should look into it on a serious note to make sure that the leaders of tomorrow, which are these children, are really taken care of. And as such, I stand here to support the motion. And I thank the member for taking time to really bring this motion. I support the motion, Madam Speaker.
Member for Langata.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And I stand here to support the motion. In my constituency, I have the famous Langata women prisons. And anytime you walk into that place, you'd see the children that live with their parents in prison, and you can actually know that there's no any program or any funding that the government has put aside to be able to cater for the children whose parents have been incarcerated in the prisons. It's so sad that now when you talk about, say, for single parents, immediately the parent goes into prison, it actually renders the child an orphan, because some of the sentences that they're being given maybe would be life imprisonment. And with that, it's just a direct separation of the children from their parents. Even if they have a chance to visit their parents in prisons, I can tell you what the children are going through is something that you not even wish for your worst enemy. Number one, with the Honorable bringing this motion, it is just not a motion that should just be discussed and be left here in Parliament. We request that the committee involved should actually go to the prisons, to actually see firsthand experience of what these children are going through. Now, we are talking about the children who are living with their parents in prison, let alone those who are out here not knowing when their parents will come out of the prisons, who are now left to wander in the streets of Nairobi. You wonder why we have so many street children in all the urban areas. It's because they have nowhere else to go. They totally have no one to turn to. And the government must, in this 13th Parliament, put up a program for the children whose parents have been castrated. I want, and I stand here to support the motion. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Before the next speaker, allow me to recognize other pupils and students in the speakers gallery: Upper Hill Academy from Bureti constituency, Kericho County. In the public gallery, Dr. Sturi Primary School, Bomet Central constituency in Bomet County. On my own behalf and of the House, we welcome you to observe the proceedings of the House. The next chance will go to the member for Bureti, Honorable Kibet Komingoi.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to be able to contribute to the motion that is on the floor about the children whose parents are under lawful custody. But before that, Madam Speaker, I would want to thank the visitors that have visited Parliament from the variety of schools, and especially from the school from Bureti, that they are much welcome to these chambers to be able to see the workings, the goings on, and also to inspire them on what is possible when they become a part of the larger society that seeks to both develop and also improve the society that we come from. We urge all the students to study hard and be a part of the responsible community of our nation. Madam Speaker, with regard to the motion that is before us, we come to the recognition that sometimes stuff happens in life that may lead to incarceration of parents, people who have children. And the question that actually comes on board, and I want to thank the Konoin MP for bringing to the notice of the nation that there are children of this nation, children of this country, that have suffered as a result of mistakes of others. And the mistakes of others include our parents, our brothers and sisters who may have committed crimes that have led to their incarceration and therefore unable to provide, tend, or to take care of their children. The question then we have is, what does the government have in plan to be able to take care of these citizens to grow into responsible citizens of our nation? The question we have is that we know that there's a social protection program being carried out under the Ministry of Interior, the Correctional Services, that take care of children 4 years and below. But as children grow, at 5 years, what happened to these children if the terms, the imprisonment terms of their parents is longer? The proposal that is being made, that the government takes up its duty to be able to protect these children, to school these children, and even defend them within the society and give them opportunities that they may be able to become responsible people and also participate in the development of this nation. This motion has come at such a time that we may need to discuss and put our ideas together, so that we may be able to expand the social protection program that we have, or increase the funding of the correctional facilities that we have, for the nation to be able to see to it that these children do not get criminalized as their parents have been, or do not get disadvantaged just because their parents are in custody. I support this motion and beg that maybe probably as we think through that we provide additional funding to either the correctional services or the social protection program under the Ministry of Labor to be able to undertake this duty. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Kitui West, Honorable Edith Nyenze.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support this motion on maintenance of child custody, especially after their parents have lawfully been put into custody. Let me say that If the family structures were working, then we would talk about family members, the immediate family members, taking care of such children. But the family unit has really broken down, and that's why we are talking of the government coming in to take over the maintenance of these children from 4 years. So I would really say that the Social Protection Committee should also try to come up with legislation which would also support our members' bill, so that they can come up with that legislation on how these children can actually be protected by either through fostering. They can also be protected through adoption. They can also be protected through by having some centers for these children, and also that the ministry can also have follow-up on how these children are being treated, especially if they have been adopted by some family members, if they have been, because the best thing would actually not to put them in one place, but they should also be brought up in their family way, whereby they will also grow up as the other children, but with a love of the extended family members, but ensure that there is a strict follow-up on now and reporting on how they are actually being treated. There should also be some funds which are set aside to maintain these children, so that they can also have a proper medical care, proper education, and the best maintenance as they wait for their parents to be released from custody. With that, Madam Speaker, I support.
Thank you. Member for Sotik, Honorable Francis Sigei.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also contribute on this very important motion. And on the onset, I would like to thank the MP Konoin, who is my neighbor, for sponsoring this motion. Madam Speaker, children are very vulnerable. And the first thing in mind to me is about those children who are taken with their mothers in custody. It really worries me, because these children, from the word go, they undergo a lot of problems. And, Madam Speaker, I would like to support this motion and ask the government to ensure that these children are given proper attention when they're in custody, especially in terms of health care, in terms of social support, and also in terms of orientation towards life. Because, Madam Speaker, you can imagine what kind of life is in prison, and that small child who is growing up in a very difficult and awkward situation. And when you come out there, for those who are left by their mothers, it is very worrying, particularly that even the extended family system, which we have nowadays, cannot support these people with the economic situation. Madam Speaker, I would like that we think of legislation on how we can enhance the social protection measures which can give these children more hope in their future. We want to raise these children, Madam Speaker, to be good citizens of this country. And the best thing to do is for the government to have deliberate measures on what to do to these children when they are out there. And they may not get the special support which we normally get from the extended family system. Madam Speaker, I would like to propose and support this motion because of the shock of psychological effects of these children. We need to support them. Because unless we do it, Madam Speaker, we will have children who are going to be stigmatized for the rest of their life. Madam Speaker, I support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The next chance will go to the member for Mwingi West, Honorable CNN.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving this opportunity to contribute and to add voice on this motion. On set, I would like to thank Honorable Brighton for bringing up this motion, because he understands the plight of children who have been actually left by the parents who are under custody. Madam Speaker, I would like to remind the House that children are our treasure, our future. And any society that takes care of children actually strengthens our nation. And also, they take care of our fabric of our society. Madam Speaker, some of these children who come from a violent kind of atmosphere, and when their parents are in custody, they undergo several challenges in terms of medical care, health care, lack of food security, and even lack of basic necessities, Madam Speaker. That is why if we can actually have a social protection welfare, just similar to the one we are taking care of the elderly, Madam Speaker, these funds can really help them towards their education, their food security, and also their school and even clothing, Madam Speaker. Without doing so much on it, this is a rather straightforward motion, Madam Speaker. I support.
Thank you. Before the next speaker, allow me to recognize in the speakers gallery, Retire Primary School from Daragwa constituency, Nyandarua County. Join me in welcoming them to observe the proceedings of the House. The next chance will go to the member for Kipkelion West, Honorable Hilary Kosgei.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support the motion by the Konoin MP, the Honorable Brighton, on these children who are deprived of their liberty because of the circumstances their parents find themselves in. And Madam Speaker, sitting in the Social Protection Committee, it has come to my attention and the attention of the committee that the whole world is pumping resources to secure the vulnerable members of their societies, including these deprived children. And in our laws, Madam Speaker, there are those children we call circumstantial children, who are born either when the parent is incarcerated and are born in prisons, and they have a right to education from age 1 to 4. But this program on circumstantial children, Madam Speaker, does not cater for the other many children who find themselves probably orphaned because the parents fought and they were imprisoned and they are left vulnerable. So, Madam Speaker, we are calling on the expansion and probably to ask the member and to ask this House to support, in terms of finances, the Social Protection Department under the Labor Ministry, so that it can expand programs of this nature up to and including developing special schools for free education for children under this category, either from childhood up to the time they attain 18 years, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, there are many circumstances that lead to this. We ignore it most of the time. But time has come as a nation that we must make sure that we leave no child behind as we plan for the progress and development of the better children who are lucky to have parents. So, Madam Speaker, I support this motion and urge that this House considers additional funding to the State Department for Social Protection towards this endeavor. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Makueni, Honorable Susan Kiamba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this time to make my contribution on this very important motion. First and foremost, I think it's important to realize that every Kenyan matters, and so more so to these children who find their parents in custody and they are denied an opportunity to grow up like other children in families. We realize that when you go to some of this particular area, you realize that there are families that have cycles or people going to jail. And I believe one of the circumstances is that when a child is born and finds very harsh environment where the mother or the parents are in custody, and the child has to, some of them have even to grow up seeing the mother jailed. I've even wondered, when you are jailed with your child, should you take full term? Because those are two people actually being jailed on your behalf. So I think it's important that we provide some families with a lot of income per capita, and we have very weak areas where we have these children being neglected. Then we have cyclic issues where we have families that continue to have people also going to jail, because as you grow up and you found your mother in jail, you also start appreciating evil because of that particular environment. So I think this is very important motion, and we think to support it. The other point I would like to put across is the psychosocial trauma. When the only guardian you know, and as a mother or a father, is in custody, and you are left all on your own, the psychosocial trauma that affects these children sometimes denies them opportunity to ever become anything. So I think this motion is timely, and I think we all need to support it, because when we support it, we are supporting our nation, we are supporting the weak and the vulnerable.
This opportunity, and first and foremost, I would also like to congratulate the member for bringing up this motion, which aims at addressing a problem that is in society. Madam Speaker, it is a fact that parents are a vital portion in our upbringing, and they provide, of course, warmth, love, guidance, assurance, and proper upbringing. In life, Madam Speaker, practically the mother is the one who plays the most crucial role in the children's upbringing. And in most families these days, we are degenerating into single parenthood, especially the fathers are becoming less responsible. And if you hear of people getting imprisoned, you find it is the mothers who are the ones who are going to jail mostly. And in such scenario, you find, Madam Speaker, it begins with a simple cases in the village, which could be dealt with by the elders of the village, including the chief. But most people end up just going to the police station, and unfortunately, our police officers are not trained to try to solve simple problems. Sometimes they even take advantage of such situation to seek for money out of such cases. And if you don't part with money, then your case ends up in court, and sometimes you are given a sentence which is not actually commensurate to the crime that, of course, has been committed. Perhaps in this regard, Madam Speaker, I would urge the provincial administration, especially now that we have passed the bill to pay the village elders, to try as much as possible to advise, the community, to try to use alternative dispute resolution, so that we do not have simple cases which can be sorted out, ending up in courts and perhaps imprisonment. Then, Madam Speaker, when addressing this challenge, I want to give an example of a philanthropist in Mombasa by the name of Hasu, or famous known as Mombasa Cement, who feeds about 3,000 to 5,000 people in a day. If such a person can do such a an activity, I believe the government can do even better than that. So perhaps using the same administration where we have the chief and the village elders, something can be done so that in case a parent is in prison, then something can be organized, the funding can be there to make sure these children are well taken care of. However, I would also urge, Madam Speaker, that sometimes the judges and the magistrates also take time to visit the prisons, to have an interview with those who are in there incarcerated, so that at least they can review these cases to make sure those which of course are found to be of lesser criminal activity, they can be released to go and join their families so that they can provide the much needed guidance to their children. Madam Speaker, we are living in difficult times today, where even getting money for the daily sustenance is a challenge. So if the mother is put in incarceration for even 6 months, it becomes quite a challenge, especially to these young kids who are very important to this nation. Since we believe that a nation is built by its people, and the young people are the ones who are going to grow into proper and, of course, responsible adults, I urge this House and the government to take this motion seriously and to make sure everything is done to pave the way for funds to be set aside so that families that are caught in this situation can get assistance, and perhaps the other areas that we have mentioned can also be addressed. Madam Speaker, I thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I thank the member for...
Thank you so much. Before I give to the next contributor, I wish to recognize Ololtoto Boarding Primary School from Narok North constituency in Narok County in the public gallery, and Tharua Primary School from Laikipia East, Laikipia County, the Speaker's Gallery. They are welcome to follow the proceedings of the House this morning. The Honorable Mary Omase, Teso South.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I also join colleagues to contribute to this very important motion. Honorable Speaker, as a mother, every time we see a child suffering, every time we see a child dropping out of school because probably a parent was jailed for one reason or the other, every time, Honorable Speaker, we see children becoming hopeless because probably the only dependent who was a parent has got into some kind of trouble and was jailed. Our hearts cry out to those children, Honorable Speaker. So when I saw this motion this morning, proposing for establishment of a fund for protection of these children, I felt, Honorable Speaker, I have to speak to this. Honorable Speaker, Section 53 of the Constitution, as already alluded to by the move of this motion, recognizes the right of all children to be protected from abuse, from any form of violence. And it's a right for every child to grow up in a conducive environment, in an environment where there is love, in an environment where there is a counselor, somebody they can trust and look up to and confide in and get guidance and get counseling. Grow up in an environment where they can become responsible and important citizens as they grow up. But in an event that when a child loses that kind of guidance, loses that counselor, the person they can look up to, open up to when they have a problem, support them, then we are likely to lose a society, we are likely to lose a generation. So those children born out of such kind of parents who have found themselves in prison deserve to be protected and to be provided for like any other child. So, Honorable Speaker, I support this motion and I urge honorable colleagues to support it. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Member for Busia, the Honorable Catherine Omanyo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is something that is very close to my heart. Being somebody who almost, I can say, like I raised myself, absenteeism of these responsible adults can really make a negative impact on a child when they are coming up, or if a parent is incarcerated, being in conflict with the law is not easy, because as a parent, first, when you look at that picture, you are not a free human. You are either a suspect, a victim, or convicted, and all that cannot make you a good parent at that time, because so many things happen. And this motion, I support fully. The member of parliament, who I really respect, having brought it here, is talking for the majority who are in silence. Children in such situations need a lot of assessment going on, a lot of monitoring going on, and parents in prison need a lot of freedom to anytime go see their children. Because a child being in prison is not a prisoner. It's only the parent maybe who is a prisoner. And many children who find themselves, either those who are maybe outside prison, but their parents are in prison, or are in prison with their parents, they come out and live in fear most of the time, left alone, and there is nothing you can do about it. It makes somebody be anxious and unsettled. People who have done psychology can easily pick it up, but people who have not done psychology can give such children names. I have been called names before, but few people who matter and care have dug down to understand why some of these things happen. So children who have been raised and know that anytime mommy will be gone or will never be there, or even if I see her, it is calculated, minuted when I have her, they live in a very an environment that they cannot even understand themselves. So it is the government's responsibility to make sure that they build an establishment for mothers or fathers with their children. This time most people look at mothers, but also we have fathers who are left with children and unfortunately can be in prison. So we must have a safe haven, an establishment that can make sure that even though you are a mother or father in prison with your child, there is still somewhere you can have some space for being a mother, or a child, making sure there is that assurance that actually mommy is still there, daddy is still there, even if they are having this conflict with the law. Also, we have treated or seen people in prison as rogue, or people who are unapproachable, or people who should be feared. And mostly when children see how even the police guards in there treat these prisoners, when they see what happens every day, these children grow up missing something. And if not well cared for or well counseled, they come out to be also very rebellious, because that is what they see. And they come out to be not part of a solution in the society, when they are finally outside prisons. So actually, we should have in every prison a school, a proper social amenity, an establishment where it looks like a home away from home for children like those, because we should always keep in mind as a nation that a child who is born in prison or was arrested with the mother or daddy and they are in prison.
Member for Gilgil, Honorable Martha.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Allow me to add my voice to this motion, and I want to congratulate Honorable Brighton Yegon for sponsoring it. And this motion, Mr. Speaker, is actually covering even wider issues that should be open to debate and to national conversation. Because, Mr. Speaker, children do not make application on where they are to be born. Just yesterday, we had the end of the International Breastfeeding Week. And my question is, if you're arrested and you have a breastfeeding child, do we actually have a way to ensure that child gets to breastfeed to the recommended WHO 6 months that is exclusive, and to 2 years as recommended, Mr. Speaker, to boost their immunity? So, Mr. Speaker, this issue, and I think during the time that Honorable Moody Awori was the minister, there are some serious reforms and drafts of reforms that happened in the correctional facilities. And I want to join Honorable Jalas or Felix of Langata to say that this issue actually should be transmitted to the Social Protection Committee or the Labor Committee of this House. They actually should make an inquiry and a visit to the correctional facilities so that we are able to know how many children are languishing with their parents in jails and don't get an education, which, by the way, is a constitutional right under Article 53. Do not get to enjoy a comprehensive medical care or cover, which is another right by the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. They should actually visit these correctional facilities, let us know how many children we are talking about, and even to the President, Mr. Speaker, and to the power of mercy. The many offenders that are in the jails and our correctional facilities today, you will find some that are hardcore criminals, women, Mr. Speaker, but most of the women incarcerated are petty offenders, Mr. Speaker. So even when we are doing pardons, these are the people we should actually consider first, because we would want to unite them to their families, Mr. Speaker. And as has been said by many members, gone are the days that we used to be sure that if you leave your child with your extended family, they are safe. No longer, Mr. Speaker, because even when you leave young kids with their relatives, how many incidences have we seen of defilement? Have we seen of incest? Have we seen of sexual abuse propagated by members of the family, Mr. Speaker? That way, this broken family unit then sends these children to the streets where they are more vulnerable, not only to disease, to abuse. They lack the education, they lack the medical cover, and these, Mr. Speaker, are constitutional and even in the international treaties provided for children, Mr. Speaker. So this motion is quite heavy, and I hope that the member for Konoin can actually pick it up either by an ad hoc committee or to the existing committees in this House, so that they do a fact-finding tour of all the correctional facilities. Mr. Speaker, as Honorable Makali Mulu had said earlier, these motions at the end of the day, and we've seen that in the previous parliaments, may end up here. And when you say urges the government, we agree we should urge the government. But in terms of deliverables, who does the follow-up of these motions, Mr. Speaker? And this also goes to the Committee of Implementation in this House. How many motions have we assented to so far in this 13th Parliament? How many have actually started being implemented? Does it need to be a bill? And how do you hold into account this House in terms of implementing these motions, Mr. Speaker? So I think it calls to a bigger responsibility. The Committee of Implementation, the Social Protection Committee, the Labor Committee, all these committees, Mr. Speaker, must work hand in hand to ensure that children who are the very important persons in this country and this republic, Mr. Speaker, are not left behind. Because when we speak of the SDGs, when we speak sustainable development goals, and we say leaving no one behind, and yet no one speaks for the children, because children will not be members of parliament in this House when they are minors. It is us to speak for them, because we are parents and we are representing them, Mr. Speaker. And even if they do not vote, we actually are their voice. So I hope that this can be truncated to even a bigger agenda to actually do a fact finding so that we can be able to tell what correctional measures can be done. And more importantly, the Committee of Implementation in this House must be able to table reports on the already churned out very many motions that have been assented to and very many bills that have been assented to know how far have we gone in implementation. I thank again Honorable Brighton Yegon, and I support the motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Abdul Haro of Mandera South.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for allowing me the opportunity to put my voice and contribute to this important motion on the development of implementation of a child care program for children whose parents are in lawful custody. And I must take this opportunity to thank Honorable Brighton Yegon for coming up with this very timely and most welcome motion at a time when we know a lot of things are happening in all our societies all over the world in relation to children and the rights of children and the welfare of children. Honorable Speaker, the arrest of a child can have significant impact the arrest of a parent can have significant impact on the child, if the arrest happens in the presence of a child. We are living in a society where children face a lot of challenges around us. We talk about the drug menace. You talk about sex pests who are lurking around in all our villages and all our societies. And looking at this motion, I think safeguarding children of arrested parents have a lot of importance. They have a lot of benefits to the child. For example, in supporting immediate and future physical, emotional, and psychological well-being of a child. It also helps in maintaining continued relationship between child and the parent, especially if the program takes into consideration the visits and the kind of coordination between how a child and the parents can keep communication with each other, even though the parent is in custody. Children development, certain impacts, it also has impact on the child's development, especially in relations to how the children will even in future view the police force, especially if the arrest happens in front of a child. It might have some lifelong impact on the child to the effect that it can also determine how the child will view the police and the law enforcement in general as they grow up. Looking at the prayer that Honorable Brighton Yegon has asked, that we urge the government through the State Department of Social Protection and Senior Citizen Affairs to develop and implement a program for the care of children above the age of 4 years whose parents are under lawful custody. I think we should not urge, we should actually compel, this House should compel the government to develop, through the State Department of Social Protection, to develop and implement a program for child care. I'm a pastoralist, and we normally say, today's calf is tomorrow's cow. And therefore, a child today is going to be a future president of this country, is going to be a future MP, is going to be a future senator, is going to be a future CS, and therefore safeguarding the future of this child now will mean we'll have a better society as Kenyans in future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Thank you. The Honorable Adipo Andrew Okome of Karachuonyo.